How do you get a great deal on your next car? Welcome to Tea at Taxevity, where you get insights from insiders who make life better, our many clients and friends. I'm Pramod Sharma, the actuary at the Taxevity Insurance Advisory, and when I'm not doing interviews, I help people understand insurance and how they can transfer their financial risks. Our guest today is Viraf Balawala. Welcome, Viraf.
Thanks, Pramod. Nice to meet you.
What do you do when you're not being interviewed?
When I'm not being interviewed, I'm out there trying to find best deals for our clients on cars. And from a personal standpoint, I'm out hopefully watching movies, spending some time with the family, that sort of thing.
Okay, and we're not talking about movies today, but we are talking about cars. How does someone know they're getting a fair deal on a car?
You got to do your homework. When it comes to fair deal, the only thing that really matters there is what do you think is fair? People have gotten into the mode of comparison shopping, and when they're doing their homework, they consider most of their time being spent doing the comparison shopping and then negotiating, which is actually the most elusive part of the business, which is the most elusive and distasteful part of the process. In fact, if they were doing their homework properly, and it's like financial planning, if you do your planning and then do your research and then do your test drives, all of this stuff can be done without any sort of pressure. And once you've narrowed it down to exactly the one vehicle that you want, then a minimal amount of comparison shopping and negotiating is all you really need, right?
Okay.
So you can either do that part of it yourself, that bottom part of the comparison shopping, etc. You can do yourself, or you can actually buy that homework already done.
Okay, and what do people tend to do typically?
Well, I think most people, ever since Leah Iacocca said that people would rather go for a root canal than go to a new car dealership to buy a car, I think people tend to really dislike the car shopping process. They have to do a certain amount of the homework and whatnot themselves, but most people do tend to go into the dealerships and start working out deals and whatnot without having done their homework properly.
Yeah, the big issue is figuring out whether you're getting a fair deal. You understand that the dealer has to make money, and you understand that you've only got so much money, but it's like you're going in blind and you have no idea whether you're getting offered something reasonable. For instance, recently we were at a Mazda dealer, and they were saying that what they charge in our situation would be a dealer invoice price plus $500.
Right.
And so on the surface, that seems like they're making $500, so that seems okay. But then you don't know if that dealer invoice price is their real price.
Well, it's not really their dealer cost. No business in the world actually reveals all of their true information so that you as a customer can take advantage of them.
Right. It just seems odd.
So when it comes to the dealer invoice pricing, there's actually two levels of dealer invoice price. One that you and I will never know about, only the dealer will know. And the other is there for show. So you're allowed to show this information because it makes it look like that you're making very little money.
Yeah,
right?
That's the message that you get. And
That's
saying,
right.
oh my goodness, I don't want to negotiate now because this poor person needs to eat too.
That's right. Yeah. So the manufacturers will actually send the dealer an upfront invoice, but then when they actually have the real invoice, it's a much different price.
Okay. And is there a best time to buy if you need a vehicle? I've heard some people saying, like, wait until the auto show, wait until the end of the month, wait until the end of the calendar year, wait until the end of the model year. It's all very confusing.
The best time to buy is actually when you need a car. If I need a car for whatever reason, I've got an accident, I've got, my car's on its last legs, whatever. If you need that at any time of the year, well, you need it and you got to move forward with it. If you can afford the luxury of having to wait until it's the right time for you, the manufacturer incentives tend to get bigger as we start getting into the summer and later. Because now the manufacturers are all retooling for the next model year, so they want to start clearing out. But you got to remember that the incentives that they're providing, which are now greater, are applicable through every dealership.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
And when you're negotiating the price of a car, you're really not negotiating the price of a car. You're negotiating the profit that the dealer is going to make. So those incentives are going to be available anywhere. Now you got to find which dealer is going to give you the best or make the least amount of profit, right?
Okay, and so is it fair to say, so the manufacturer may have different discounts at different times of the year.
That's right.
But the dealership has a certain profit margin also. So does that change during the course of the year, or is that pretty constant?
That tends to be whatever the market will bear. Okay. So regardless of time of year, it's whatever the market will bear. we have seen lots of consumer deals because, of course, sometimes people go in, here's my deal, here's what I've got, can you do better, right? And we don't really operate that way, but we do get to see what these deals have come in at. And so if there are huge incentives that the manufacturer is providing, then to the consumer, the dealer may not negotiate much on their profit level because from the optics, it still looks like you're getting a big discount.
Exactly.
And people will accept that and say, oh, well, that's good enough, right? And they won't really push forward with it because they think it's such a big amount that they're getting as a discount.
Right. Okay. So they're being a little naive there. So they are getting a deal from the manufacturer, but they should still push for a deal from the retailer too then.
Sure.
Okay, that's good to know, because I was at a Mercedes dealer recently, and they were saying that there are three parties that affect the price. There's the manufacturer, there's the dealership, and there's also the leasing arm, and each of them has separate goals, and one might be more receptive to certain things than other things.
Right. At the end of the day, the leasing arm, sometimes it's the financing arm, it could be finance or lease, whichever, but that organization is somewhat separate. I mean, yes, it's an underling for the manufacturer, but it is operating somewhat separately. And their money is made by extending you credit. That credit is not going to change. The amount of your payments are going to be determined based on what the dealer is going to make in profit and what the manufacturer is kicking in as an incentive. The rest is just a formula.
Okay.
Right, so if it's 3.99%, that's what they're going to make.
But then sometimes those rates get negotiated too. So it's 3.99, but you're a preferred customer, so now you get 75 points off.
No, there are things like loyalty credits and things like that happen.
But those are probably the same for everyone.
They're the same for everyone. So if it's a Mazda, they happen to have a loyalty credit, well, regardless of which dealer you go to, that's coming from the manufacturer level.
Okay.
There is no negotiation. If the program is there, it's there. If it's not, it's not.
Okay, so the only thing the retailer can do is adjust the price of the vehicle, because that's the part that's within their
the profit
control.
that they're going to make.
Okay, and what about trade-ins? That seems to be the most confusing part in the whole process. A new car you can compare and get some idea.
Some idea.
But with a trade-in, how could a consumer possibly know what's fair?
There is no formula to be able to define that. That is totally based on what the market will bear, right? Even as you're doing the deal and you're looking to trade your vehicle in, the dealership may tell you, well, it's worth X. And if you have no way of verifying it or pushing it back, then you're kind of at the mercy, right? So even from a distribution standpoint, the dealership will, if they're taking your vehicle in, they have a couple of options. They're going to send it to an auction. They're going to go through a wholesaler and sell it to them, who will sell it to somebody else. Or they're going to try to retail it and sell it to a customer of their own. Right?
Okay.
The big game there is the lower I can buy from you, the more I can sell it for, the more money I make. That's, buy low, sell high. That's the name of any business. That's the game for any business.
It's just that you tend to figure out the trade-in at the time you're buying. So at that point, you're not going to multiple places to get different offers.
Right, and you're locked in already.
Yes, because
you just bought this car, right? So,
yeah, you don't really need two.
Right.
And so it gets tricky because they may ask you early on, like, are you planning to buy or trade in, whatever? And so you can say whatever you want. But at some point they figure out that here's the whole package.
Exactly. And you have to remember, too, that they're a business.
Yes.
Right? And as a business, they have to buy this stuff from you wholesale, add their profit, add their reconditioning costs, et cetera, to make it showroom condition, and then sell it at whatever profit they're going to make, right?
Yes.
So a lot of people get very edgy about that because they say, oh, I see this on AutoTrader advertised at $10,000 and you're sitting here offering me 7 or 8 or 6 or whatever it is, and I think I should be getting a lot more. Well, then how is the dealer going to make a profit, right? If you're getting too much, right? So what does tend to happen there is, fine, if I sense as a dealership that you have a very close attachment to the value of your vehicle, I'm going to jack up the price on the other side.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's still the same window. So you as a customer should not be worried about what my trade-in worth. It's, if I hand over my car and a check for X, I get this new car. what's the minimum amount that X needs to be for that check. That's all you need to worry about.
Okay, so what you're suggesting is tell them that, okay, I want to trade in this vehicle, I want to buy this vehicle, tell me what the total thing is rather than negotiating each piece separately.
You don't, yeah. And when you do it as a whole, then it makes, then it actually you're able to do that comparison shopping properly, right?
Okay, and it turns out that's what I've actually done because it just seems simpler. But when I read things, they seem to suggest doing both separately. And
no, from the standpoint if you're doing comparison shopping, so you want to try to get the price of the upfront one first.
Yes. Okay.
And before you're sitting down ready to do the deal, you have to introduce your trade-in.
Okay.
So that way you're still in comparison shopping mode.
Right. Okay.
Right. But you now have the two independent numbers.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that's what we've done because you want to do the trade-in at a place that seems to be giving you a fair deal on the new one, assuming that you'll get a fair deal on the other one.
Well, if you're comparison shopping, you're going to be asking the same question to all the different dealers you go to, right?
Yes.
So then they'll all be able to come back and say, okay, I need a check from you of X for the difference, and you can drive away with this other car, right? So which one is going to be the lowest X check that they need? That's
right. And what are your thoughts on buying used?
I like buying used. I will never buy for myself a new car again. The reason is because, first of all, I'm much more comfortable with it than many people are. And if I let somebody else take that first hit for depreciation.
When you get a vehicle for yourself, typically how old is it?
I like kind of a year or so.
But who would be selling a vehicle a year later?
There are lots of times when we're able to find a vehicle that's a year old. Now, in Canada, the availability of that is not as good as it is down in the U.S. So my car right now, I've imported it from the U.S. and I was able to get a much better deal down there at that time. That will vary as well, depending on the economic situation. But I like to get something that's a year old or so, and let that first hit for depreciation be taken by the first buyer. And at the same time, I've still got plenty of warranty left. So if there is going to be any problem, I can use the manufacturer warranty on that.
And what are your thoughts on extended warranties?
That's a matter of risk tolerance. So some people, I need to have that peace of mind that because I'm going to be driving this car for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, and I've got, I bought it used anyways. Like it's already 2-3 years old, so the manufacturer's warranty is almost over, and I got this car for another 3, 4, 5 years. Well, at that point, if you feel that I really don't want to have the headache of any problems, buy an extended warranty, right? If you're willing to take the risk, and it is a risk, then go without. You might save yourself some money up front. You might get lucky, you might not, right? So it's really a risk tolerance factor.
Okay, that's a nice way of explaining it because, with a lot of these things, it's not a black and white yes, no answer.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that you're going to have problems. There's no guarantee you're not going to have problems.
Right.
I heard about a vehicle the other day. It had almost 1 million kilometers on it.
Oh.
Right? And they just kept it well maintained and everything else, and it was running smoothly, running fine. But then there's others that, are lemons and take it off the lot and it breaks down, right?
When it comes to paying, there are 3 different ways. You can pay cash, you can finance, or you can lease. Is there one that tends to be better?
Well, I can tell you the one that tends to be the worst, I think, is the lease.
Okay, why is that?
Well, the lease is the most expensive way to operate a vehicle. First of all, it's like, let's say it's like renting an apartment versus buying a house, right? Whatever money you're putting into it is actually going out the window to somebody else, to the landlord.
Right.
Right? Whereas when you're putting money into your mortgage, at least it's going for yourself. Recognizing that cars depreciate, houses appreciate.
Yes.
But still, when you do the number crunching, if you're leasing, let's say this is your first lease. Initially, your payments may be lower, but by the time you're into your second lease, your payments actually start to get higher. Overall, your total overall cost becomes more expensive because the original vehicle, had you financed it, is now yours.
Okay.
Okay.
You have an asset.
You have an asset. And it's still operating, it still has value, so you may not need to buy another vehicle for, let's say, 8 years, right? Your total out-of-pocket cost over that time versus your out-of-pocket cost if you're leasing, once you're into your 5th or 6th year, your total cost is actually gone above if you're financing, right? And of course, if you can afford to pay cash, that's the least expensive way to operate it because you're not paying any interest at all.
Right.
But also you have to take a look at what kind of interest rates are the incentives to the manufacturer. If it's a 0% interest and there's not a big rebate, right? You can probably make your money work harder for you elsewhere by investing it. So
yes,
you have to do the calculations. When we're working with clients, we tend to have a spreadsheet, and we work through all the numbers, and then we say this is the best way to do it, right? In this situation, and everything is a case by case.
Right. Now, in the car buying process, as consumers, we tend to look at things from our perspective, and dealers are doing all these nasty things to us. But dealers probably have views on how car buyers behave badly. What do car buyers tend to do that isn't really fair to a dealer?
Well, I mean, that's a fair question. There's always this negative stereotype about how bad the car dealer is. But at the end of the day, some of that has been fostered by the kind of games that are played on the buyer's end as well.
Okay, and
not saying everybody does that,
right.
But I've actually heard of situations where you have the husband comes into the dealership separately from the wife. They're negotiating for the same car with one salesperson. The wife comes in a little bit later. She's negotiating with a different salesperson in the same car. Right?
Seriously?
At the same time. I've heard this from other dealerships, and this is actually this actually happened, right? And so then whichever one kind of works the best number, then they both, okay, I'll think about it. They retreat, compare notes. Oh, this guy gave me a better price. Okay, well, let's deal with him, right?
Okay.
So there's that level of competition that people are playing the dealers with.
Interesting.
Right? And so that then has fostered, and I'm not saying everybody does this, but I'm saying, these types of things have fostered that kind of pressure sale approach, because dealerships know that if you walk out of the dealership right now without doing a deal, there's so many dealerships around that I may lose you as a customer, right? If you're going to the next dealer, that's where you're probably going to buy, right? You buy at the last place that you shop.
Right.
So as a dealership, my job as a sales rep is to make sure that this is the last place that you shop.
Okay.
And if it is, then we've got the deal. If it isn't, then there's a very good chance that you're going to go elsewhere.
Yeah, one of the things that bothers me about the car buying process is that it's convenient to do a test drive close to where you live, but you may not necessarily buy there.
Right.
Now, does that mean that I'm being really bad because I'm using test vehicles at one place and maybe buying somewhere else?
I think that's just human nature in terms of wanting to get, the best deal overall. We all work very hard for our money. We want to keep as much of it in our pocket as possible. And if the local, most convenient dealer is not able to provide me that best price, at least I've given them the opportunity.
Okay, that's fair, yes.
Right?
I feel better now.
Yeah. They've spent some time, they've done the test drive and everything else, but at least if they're fair and if they're reasonable, then I don't think that most people are going to start running around to all sorts of different places.
Okay.
The problem becomes that because of the nature of the car business, you don't know if they're fair.
That's the whole problem.
And so therefore, I have to at least compare notes with somebody else and do my homework. And again, once you go into another dealership to check, you're probably going to go to your convenient guy first.
Right.
And then you're going to compare notes with the next guy who might not be the most convenient, but they'll sell you. And if they'll sell you, now, so are you a bad guy? No, I don't think you're a bad guy, but the process itself lends itself to doing that.
Okay.
Even if you're shopping for groceries, I mean, you're going to look at the Walmart flyer, you're going to look at the Loblaws flyer, you're going to look at all of these things there. And
yeah, but what feels a little different is that you're dealing with a commissioned salesperson here.
Yes.
And so it's not like Walmart is like a huge entity. Like here's an actual person that you're talking to, and you.
So being in the business that we're in, we have a good idea of who's competitive and who's not, right?
Okay.
And so one of the things that we like to do for people in those situations, if they come to us first and they utilize our full concierge service, we'll set up meetings. Like let's say you have 3 vehicles that you're looking for, right? So we will set up test drives at particular dealerships, and we'll let them know that this customer's coming from us. Don't give them any sales pressure. They're looking at multiple vehicles. If we end up choosing this brand, we'll buy it through you. So that way, the time that you invest is really there just pitching your product.
Mm-hmm.
And if the customer decides that's a product that they're going to go with, then you haven't wasted your time. So that's kind of a good way around that guilt feeling.
Okay, that sounds fair. And you're leading to the next question I wanted to ask you, which is, what services do you provide to help car buyers?
Well, we provide a lot of the data to help them do it themselves, or we have a full concierge service where we can take care of it for them. So if it's a new car that we're looking for, we do a lot of mystery shopping out there. As well, we do a lot of direct negotiations on behalf of customers. So we've amassed all this data on what's the best prices for almost every vehicle out there.
Okay.
Right? So if you come in, I'm looking for such and such, then we go to our database and we pull together our report saying this is the best price range we found in your market. Now for $75, all that homework's already been done.
Okay.
Right? So you don't have to comparison shop anymore. You can go to your convenient dealer and just get them down to that target. Right? If there's trade-ins involved and dealer fees and things like that, that they will tend to charge you on that. If you're buying the $75 report, we can't control because each individual dealer charges differently, right?
Right.
But here's the price of the vehicle, $75. You can do your own negotiation, or if you want us to handle the whole thing, we'll negotiate the value of your trade-in as well as the new car, as well as all those extra dealer fees.
Yeah, and that was a service that I thought was very useful, because the trade-in is the part that I think is the messiest in the whole process, and the negotiations in general, because you get a vehicle once every few years, and in your case, you're dealing with vehicles on a daily basis.
That's right. Yeah, and because of that, we're a licensed dealer too, so we have access to what are the wholesale prices really for these cars, and so from that standpoint, we do have some extra leverage that we can provide to help our customers out.
Okay, I didn't quite understand what it meant to be a licensed dealer. Does that mean that you also sell vehicles?
I can sell vehicles. We have a dealer's license. Doesn't mean we operate like a dealer.
Okay.
So as a regular dealer, you're buying cars at X, you're buying low, selling high, right? And the spread is what you make as a profit. The way we've set up our business model is we've got the dealer's license, and that is to be able to give the benefit of the discounted pricing back to our customers. So we just charge a flat fee for the service, and whatever we can get that vehicle for on a wholesale basis is what our cost is what our customer would pay. So they would reimburse us for the cost if it's a used car, and they would pay a flat fee, right, for the service.
So if I understand correctly, there are no conflicts of interest in your model, because the only money you're getting is coming from the buyer.
That's right.
Okay, and that's refreshing, because some of the other services, you feel almost as if they're lead generation systems that are being used for the dealers rather than for us as the buyers.
That's virtually every other solution out there is basically paid by the dealership, and especially those that are free or offering you something free. There's nothing free in the car business. So if that's the route, that they're getting paid by the dealership. If they're getting paid by the dealership, then they're not really able to work on your behalf, because there's too much pressure from the dealers to keep the prices low or keep the prices high, right?
Right. Is there a key message you'd like to leave with our viewers today?
Well, I think the biggest message in anything with car business is you got to do your homework. Whether you do it or whether you hire somebody to do it and you buy it, one way or the other, you got to know what you got to have all that homework done.
And what's the best way for people to reach you?
They can go to our website. It's www.automallnetwork.com. We also have something called Ask V, which if you have any sort of questions with regards to the car buying process, you have some challenges, horror stories, you want to share that, you can go to our Facebook page.
Okay.
And you can put that, and we will do whatever research we can as a consumer advocate to try to get you some answers.
Okay, that's very helpful too.
Right. I'm actually a go-to person for several people in the media. And so,
which is one of the ways I found you.
Yeah. Yes. So Ellen Roseman, for example, Toronto Star, reader has a challenge. He'll send, I was mistreated by this particular dealer. I feel ripped off, whatever it may be. She'll send that over to me and say, is there any way that this person can get some sort of resolution? And if they're, in most cases, unfortunately, you've signed a legally binding contract, you can't get out of it now, this is the way it is, right? So you've come to us too late. But there are situations there where we've been able to say, well, if you do this, this, and this, and then they follow those rules and they've been able to get some resolution.
Okay, that leads to one last question. When you've signed a deal to buy a vehicle, is there any option to back out of it, like a cooling down period?
There is none. All sales are final. Now,
Okay.
having said that, if you've left a deposit,
Mm-hmm.
the maximum extent of your cost there could be your deposit, right?
Okay.
But technically speaking, once you've made the deal, it's yours. And if you back out of it, then the dealer has the right to go and sell the car, and any sort of differential is your responsibility. They would hold it back from the deposit and give you any sort of balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I understood, but I was hoping there'd be a different answer.
No, sorry.
Well, thanks very much for dropping by.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for Tea at Taxevity. The Taxevity Insurance Advisory helps you understand insurance and bridges gaps in your coverage. There's no premium for peace of mind. How healthy is your insurance?